Well, it looks like he dropped under the line because he had a little push and hoping that he could get down and have room to come off. But he got the line and spun as the tires hit the yellow lines.
And you can see the front end of that car was virtually torn apart. He did come to rest just entering turn number 3. The medical personnel were quickly on the scene of the accident. He was airlifted to Methodist Hospital, where you heard just a few minutes ago that he did undergo surgery yesterday, but apparently everything is going to be okay with Jim Crawford. On the racetrack for a qualification attempt is Jeff Brabham, who now makes his home in Noblesville, Indiana, about 15 miles north of Indianapolis. However, he was born in Sydney, Australia. Pole days in Indianapolis history. Mario Andretti last started from the pole position in 1967. He'll do it again in 1987. His white flag lap was his slowest, 214.327 miles an hour. But with the other 3 laps, the best of which was 216.3, his average is 215.3 miles an hour. That was about 2 miles an hour slower than Mario had practiced at. But it was windy and hot yesterday afternoon, and those conditions held down the speeds. Rick Mears' 4-lap record of 216.828 will apparently stand in 1987. Andretti's Newman Haas Lola is powered by a Chevy Ilmore engine, a motor whose speed has been proven, but whose reliability may be a question mark. He did win with the car in the first IndyCar race of the season in Long Beach, California. Mario Andretti won the Indianapolis 500 in 1969, and he has big hopes for his 22nd Indianapolis 500-mile race.
The way these cars behave in turbulence, I think it's a bonus, especially now. I think we found this out during practice that because of the speeds, the turbulence is even tougher than last year, and to be up there in clear air, I think is a bonus, and it's worth going for.
The defending champion of the 500-mile race is Bobby Rahal from Dublin, Ohio. He'll start from the middle of row number 1. He qualified the Budweiser True Sports Lola Cosworth at a 4-lap average of 213.316 miles an hour. It'll be his 6th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Bobby commented about getting the balance right on the car prior to qualifying.
The balance of the car was reasonable, but the wind did move us around quite a bit, so that affected it. And it's getting hotter out there, but from the front row, second row, you know, where we are, yeah, exactly, 500-mile race.
Two-time Indy champion Rick Mears struggled in the practice periods with a Penske chassis, so they called their shops in Reading, Pennsylvania, and had a 1986 March brought to the track. And Rick Mears qualified it outside of row number 1 at 211.467. A.J. Foyt in his 30th Indianapolis 500. He's looking for his 5th win and has quite a shot at it. He qualified for inside of row number 2, qualifying at 210.935 miles an hour in a Lola Cosworth.
I think we still got a shot at winning this race. I didn't think I had a chance to win. I haven't won nothing big in a long time, championship cars, but I wouldn't be here. I mean, I'm not too proud. I feel I've won my share of races. I've been lucky enough to be competitive pretty much in every run. I have nothing to prove except to myself. Every time I get beat the last race, I got to come back and try to win.
Roberto Guerrero, who won an IndyCar race earlier this year in Phoenix, put his True Value STP march in the middle of the second row. And Dick Simon has his best starting position ever in a 500-mile race.
Today, unfortunately, the track is a little slippery in 1 and 2, and I had taken a chance with a big blower to go for the front row, and under that condition with a big blower, if you have to get out of the throttle, it hurts you bad because it takes a long time to build the momentum back up. But that was the gamble to get on the front row, and it didn't pay off, but we're still in the strong, and the race is coming.
Going to row number 3 now. On the inside will be Arie Luyendyk, the Rookie of the Year in 1985 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In an earlier qualification attempt, Arie Luyendyk got the car a little bit too high between turns number 1 and 2 and brushed the wall, but later he qualified at 208.337 miles an hour. Johnny Rutherford will start his 23rd Indy 500 from the middle of row number 3. He qualified at 208.296 miles an hour. And then Michael Andretti will start outside of row number 3. He put his Preco STP March Cosworth in the field at 206.129 miles an hour. Michael was the Rookie of the Year here in 1984. Then in row number 4 for this year's 500-mile race. On the inside will be Emerson Fittipaldi in the March Ilmore Chevy, qualifying at 205.584. And in the middle of row number 4, Danny Sullivan in the Penske Ilmore Chevy with a qualifying average of 205.288. And so far today here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the qualifiers, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. will be starting outside of row number 4, qualified at 207.591. Then in row number 5, it'll be Rich Vogler in car number 81, Scott Brayton in 91, and Jeff Brabham in number 15. And all alone in row number 6 with Gary Bettenhausen in car number 56. That's the way the field stands at this moment. However, we have more qualifiers that will be making an attempt here later this afternoon. Now, Davy Jones, driving for A.J. Foyt, has been on the racetrack in the past few minutes. However, he did not make a qualification attempt. Unser Jr. may be making one in just a moment. And had a crash, and then he was also in trouble here at the Speedway earlier today. The car coming in contact with the wall between turns 2 and 3, make that 1 and 2, and the right side of the car was pretty much torn away. Gary Lee caught up with him and talked to him.
Tom, once again, a case of lightning striking twice. In your assessment, is the same problem you had earlier the same problem these other cars are having?
It's hard to say. You know, it's that one acted very similar to the first one, but it shouldn't have acted that way because the adjustment we made should have been helping that problem and not compounding it. So I don't know. It just I can't quite figure it out right now.
Your crew's had, I think, 2 days to work on the primary car that was damaged earlier. So where does this put your program now for qualifying?
Well, we don't have anything left right now. You know, unfortunately for the guys, we're going to have to work this week and try to get one of the cars back together.
Well, all month long, Dick Simon, they have been talking about the new marches that have been having handling problems. Now, this is George Snyder on the racetrack in one of the A.J. Foyt cars again. Davy Jones was out on a Foyt car just a few minutes ago and did not attempt the run. However, George Snyder has taken the green flag and is on his 4 laps of qualifying. They've been talking about the marches handling poorly. What are they talking about, Dick?
Well, they're talking about actually the push that comes into the car unexpectedly, and some of that is the mannerisms in which you set up the spring ratios front to rear. That's what we found as during our rookie orientation test here with Davy Jones and also Ludwig Heimrath. You'll notice George twitched a little bit coming through one there on the camera, and that's the rear end being loose. A.J. Foyt is very smart, and he probably set up George to be just a little loose to start with for a slippery track in 1 and 2, and we'll see what happens.
Snyder from Bakersfield, California on lap number 1 of his qualification attempt. Now this is a V6 Chevy that is in this car as he completes lap number 1. We'll see what the speed elates to, and it's not a bad speed for George Snyder. It's 206.597 miles an hour, so Snyder is moving that car well.
That's to be expected, I think, from the man that's helping him there. And of course, George is a fantastic driver and has always been around a long time, and he knows just how far to push it. Unfortunately for Tom, I don't know what the situation was. Tom is a very smart driver, too. There's just an unusual situation there, but I don't think it's the tires. I think it's the setups.
You know, we were all very surprised earlier this week when George Snyder took that car out for practice, because he usually jumps in this car on the last weekend of time trials with just a very few laps of practice and puts it in the field. And this time, or this year, he has had 2, 3, 4 days of practice.
George, as you say, has had an unusual situation with A.J. In fact, I was quite surprised to see A.J. do that. But he came here well prepared with a number of cars, and I think that...
Oh, he's spinning!
He lost it. As I said, he was a little loose there, Bob, and that's unfortunate.
And he is going to make contact with the wall. We thought perhaps that he was going to keep it off the inside retaining wall, but he did make contact coming out of turn number 2. It was a very consistent run that George Snyder had going for him. His first lap was 43.563 seconds. The second lap, 43.566 seconds. Just a tick of the watch slower on lap number 2. 206.597 was the first lap, and 206.583 was the second lap. Here's a replay now.
You know, watch this, Bob, and you'll see that as he's loose, in contrast to Tom Snea, who was pushing, and A.J. was trying to compensate for the push, and just a little bit too much. The rear wheel's breaking loose as the car comes around, and the driver is trying to correct for it and do a 360 and come out of it. With Tom Snea's situation, the front end let loose, and he went straight to the wall, unable to steer. As the driver is spinning there, of course, he's trying to keep a neutral position to where he can come off the turn and come back down the straightaway. If you don't catch it at the right moment, what happened to George there, it does happen to you, and you go on to the inside wall.
I thought he might be able to keep that car away from the wall, but he did slide to the inside and hit the retaining wall with the right rear of the car. You can see the emergency personnel there on the scene of the accident, and we're waiting for a definite word on whether George Snyder received any injuries in that crash. Didn't hit the wall all that hard, though, it didn't look like, Dick.
No, he didn't. As I say, I noticed he was twitching a little bit coming through the turns there, and unfortunately, it just got away from him. I didn't expect that from George. He's very, very, very good at holding a loose car.
Well, George Snyder, going into today's run, had the record for the most consistent qualifying run in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he had a very consistent run going here this afternoon, but he did lose control in turn number 2, and the car out from under him, striking the inside wall just out of turn number 2. We'll be back with more as
That you're coming along well. You'll be back in the cockpit next week.
Yes, you saved me from therapy. I needed a little day out the track. I haven't been out here since Tuesday. It's nice to be back with my friends. You know, between the hospital and then eventually therapy, it's occupied all my time since the accident.
Well, of course, 2 bones broken in the foot, surgery required there. We have a broken shin bone, but no cast. I see a special wrap and a special driving boot.
That's part of the plan. We put a plate in the bottom of my foot to hold the bones together so that I would have the ability to drive this coming week.
So the crew has acquired a new 87 Lola for you. It's going together back in the garage area. You have a few more physicals to go through before you'll be okay to drive, though.
Right. The car should actually be ready on Tuesday, and it's probably going to be shaken down by Phil Kruger Tuesday or Wednesday, and then hopefully things go well. I'll be back Thursday to step into it and take it nice and easy and get up to speed and try to get back to where we left off.
I appreciate you coming out, and all the fans would love to see you back in that race car next week. Thanks for coming out, Dennis.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can bring a little excitement to next weekend.
Well, Larry Newber is standing by because we may have a qualification attempt momentarily by Al Unser Jr.
Absolutely right, Gary. This 25-year-old driver that many people think will sit in victory lane someday here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has just received the final instructions from Chief Steward Tom Binford. A last-moment conversation with crew chief Dennis Swan, and Al Unser Jr. has crawled behind the wheel of this 1987 March. Remember that this team was one of the standard bearers of Lola until this year. They made the switch over the winter. At this point, that switch looks, well, like maybe it wasn't the wisest of ideas, at least for here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Al Unser Jr. was out several times this afternoon. We mentioned earlier in the show that few people practice. Al was one of them. His best speed so far, 205. I talked to him momentarily. He said, I think there's more left in these hands, but only time and the weather, maybe the shade on the track will tell. Bob?
All right, Al Unser Jr. getting strapped in that car, and Snyder's car, meanwhile, George Snyder's car, is being taken from the racetrack. He did come in contact with the inside wall coming off turn number 2 on his 3rd lap of qualifying. He had completed laps in excess of 206.5 miles an hour when he lost control in turn number 2. So we are down for just a moment. However, Alan Massengale, who is visiting Indianapolis from ESPN Sports Center, is roaming the grounds of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and has this report from turn 5.
So you think these auto racing fans might be missing out on the NBA playoffs? No, 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 no. The IBA is now in session. The Infield Basketball Association, time for the slam dunk contest.
is always something going on at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If there isn't action on the track, there's action off the track. Al Unser Jr. is still waiting to go onto the racetrack next weekend, also at 5 o'clock Eastern Time next Saturday, and then the Bubble Show on Sunday at 5:30 Eastern Time. That's when we'll do all the bumping in an effort to get into the field. On the racetrack will be Al Unser Jr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico, trying to make this year's field. He has been driving a Lola the past few years. However, he has switched to March. And Dick Simon has been a Lola supporter for many years now. Dick, what about this switch?
Well, actually, we were March supporters for a long time, Bob, and last year we chose Lolas due to Raul Boisel and our chief mechanic, Sal Incandela. And we were going to go to the Marches again, as I had been there, and when we were at the March factory, they did not want to show us the wind tunnel tests and asked us to go on the results that they have had in finishes. I went to the Lola factory. They opened their books on the wind tunnel tests and showed us the difference between last year's car and this year's car, and saw the little mock-up of the car, and I felt that the aerodynamics was so much better and the downforce was the same, and we chose Lola on that basis. I think that Al Unser Sr. or Jr.'s owner, Doug Shearson, was at March factory the same time I was, and he bought the fact that March had been winners all along. And I think this year Lola made an extra effort, and they deserve the award for the most aggressive progress made.
That's a very interesting story, because we have seen several switch from March to Lola, including the defending champion of this race, Bobby Rahal. And when you look at the results from yesterday, you've got to acknowledge at least that Lola may be very strong in this year's 500-mile race. Well, here's the average of Al Unser Jr. It's not good, Dick. It's 201.423, a very big disappointment. Let's go to Larry Newber, who's with Al Unser Jr.'s dad.
Well, Bob, Al Unser Sr., who himself has been in over 20 Indianapolis 500-mile races, even though he's been in so many of the races, it's still very important to him to how his son does. And right now, a lot of disappointment down here. Al was following the progress of Al Jr. in the clocks, and as the first lap time came in, it really was kind of a crushing blow. And he's right now in deep concentration. He doesn't really have a call as far as the team goes as to whether or not Al's going to come in, but he's very much involved in what's going on. And Al, got to be a bit of a disappointment, yes?
Well, it is, on any driver's part, especially for my son. They just don't have their car working yet, and those things happen.
Now, we appreciate you talking to us, and the interesting thing here is the yellow flag has now come out, is that the emotion of running or winning or entering the 500-mile race, qualifying for it, it's still very prevalent, even in all of your minds, despite the number of years you've been here.
Yeah, this place has its habits about doing that, and for some reason, I think any race, but this one's the one that everybody's after, and this one's, as you said, it has something to it. Why, I don't know.
Al, have the two of you had any conversations now that this attempt has gone by the wayside? What do you think it will take? You're probably not going to get another attempt until next week.
Not really. We haven't, talked about that whatsoever. Other people talking, you can say anywhere from 204 on up, but, it all depends what happens this week in the weather. If all of a sudden the weather comes in and helps the track, or the weather comes in and then nobody gets to run. So, you might then look back and say, well, we should have taken what we had, but, that's just the way this place is.
Thanks a lot, Al. Bob, back to you.
Thank you, Larry. Al Unser Jr. has aborted the qualification attempt. His first lap was well under what most people think it's going to take to make the field. It was 201.423, and that little Al has taken that car into the north area of the pits, and his owner, Doug Shearson, is looking over the situation and very disappointed, obviously. Indy 500 speed barriers are made to be broken, and back in 1977, Tom Snea cracked the 200-mile-an-hour barrier. 15 years prior to that, in '62, Parnelli Jones, driving for J.C. Agajanian, qualified at 150.729, the first over the 150 mark. And longtime Indy 500 sponsor Phil Hedback presented Parnelli with 150 silver dollars. And Hedback was there in '77 when Snea achieved the 200 mark with 200 silver dollars and an enthusiastic handshake. 16 drivers have qualified for this year's Indianapolis 500-mile race, and we have the qualifying line still formed at the north end of the track. More qualification attempts in just Dick Simon, Larry Newber, Gary Lee, and Alan Massengale. We are live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the second day of time trials, and we have 16 cars now in the field. And there is Jeff McPherson from Rancho Santa Margarita, California, who is attempting to make his way into the Indianapolis 500 for the very first time. If he does qualify for the race, he'll be the second rookie in this year's field. Earlier today, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. qualified a car owned by Dick Simon and put it in the field nicely. You got to be very proud of him.
We are, Bob, tremendously, because he was smooth right from the start of the rookie orientation test, and I have to say he's the best rookie driver I've ever seen in my life.
And that's saying a lot. Jeff McPherson has taken the green flag. He is on lap number 1. This young man grew up in California and actually started racing in off-road competition out in Arizona. That was back in 1973. Dick, he's dropped to the middle of the backstretch. Is that the groove? Is that the way you're supposed to do it?
Well, some drivers do drop down a little bit because the stagger in the cars causes the car to pull a little bit left. And if you look at your gauges a little bit there, Bob, the car could get a little bit more left than you want it, but it's not a serious thing if you don't jerk it back and just bring it gradually back.
Well, he did not bring the car very high off the fourth turn wall. He's in the middle of the racetrack right now and completes the first lap of qualifying. Jeff McPherson has turned in a speed not too bad. It's 205.555 miles an hour. That's a time of 43.784. So although that car isn't taking as much racetrack as a lot of others we have seen, he's doing quite well.
Yes, he is, Bob, actually coming off the turn with about a foot to spare there as he comes up against the wall and using the lower part of the track is not a bad approach with the track conditions the way they are. And his car seems to be set up fairly well, and Jeff's doing a good job.
Last year, Jeff McPherson concentrated by and large in Europe in the Formula 3000 series. Here is the second lap of qualifying completed for Jeff McPherson. First lap was just in excess of 205.5 miles an hour, and the second lap is even quicker than the first. It's 43.750. The speed 205.714. That's an average of 205.6 for the 2 laps.
Bob, you'll find that in the rookie orientation test, he ran the same groove almost that he's running now, except he's coming off just a little higher. As the next week goes, Jeff will increase coming out and letting the car go free. And as he lets the car go free and comes out towards the wall, his speeds will even pick up more.
Off of corner number 4, once again, he'll be receiving the white flag this time around.
Watch as Jeff comes out of the turn. You'll notice that he kind of holds it down away from the wall. And with the, as we call a stagger in the tires, that's a solid spool in the rear with the tire on the left being smaller than the tire on the right. And it causes the car to want to turn slightly, and you hold that a certain direction, and it causes scrubbing off speed. And as you let the car go free, he will pick up speed, and that comes with experience.
And there is the speed. He picked it up on the third lap. It's 205.766. He's averaging 205.6 miles an hour and is just about finished with his 10-mile run. Jeff McPherson completed 3 IndyCar races last year on the road courses, Mid-Ohio, Elkhart Lake, and Laguna Seca. He doesn't have that much experience on the ovals, but he has done a fine job here in Indianapolis on a Sunday evening as he is qualified for his first 500-mile race. And we'll stand by now and give you the time and speed report on lap number 4. And the fourth lap was 205.719, a very consistent run. His 4-lap average is 205.688 miles an hour. So he is our second rookie in the field. He is not the fastest because Ludwig Heimrath Jr. still has that distinction. Heimrath qualified at 207.591 earlier today. Poncho Carter from Brownsburg, Indiana. He's being wheeled to the qualifying line as we present live for you time trials from Indianapolis.
Indiana is live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and our second rookie qualifier today is Jeff McPherson, and your comment was, dang, I wasn't the fastest.
No, I would have liked to have been the quickest today. It was worth something as well.
Obviously, as a rookie, it's a real workout to come here, but you've had some difficulties this week. You've been faster, but the track just went away.
Yeah, it went away, and we kind of wandered along with it. We've had a little bit of mechanical trouble, but I'd like to say that luckily we recovered from it, and we're able to get in today.
What's it mean to a rookie to qualify for what appears to be the world's greatest race?
Well, I'd say that it was number one, and it really means a lot. This is tremendously exciting. Just beneath the pressure that's gone, I can't even begin to tell you.
So now you can get it all over with this weekend and enjoy next week and setting the car up for the race. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thanks very much.
Very happy rookie, Jeff McPherson.
Well, Dick Simon, you have qualified for many 500-mile races, and I get the idea every time they talk to you after you complete a qualification run, you're just as happy as you probably were that very first time you qualified for a race.
Yes, actually, Bob, when I first came here, the palms of my hands were perspiring terribly, and I thought to myself, I hope I can get this first year over with so that I can settle down, and each year gets even more nervous.
This will be Dick Simon's 16th Indianapolis 500, and once again, he'll be starting from outside of row number 2. And we have 17 drivers now qualified for this year's 500-mile race. Row number 1, again, is Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal, and Rick Mears. Row 2, A.J. Foyt, Roberto Guerrero, and Dick Simon. In row number 3, it will be Ari Leyendijk with Johnny Rutherford and Michael Andretti. Then in row number 4, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Danny Sullivan. Then today's qualifiers, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. at 207.591. In row number 5, Rich Vogler at 205.887. Jeff McPherson just qualified at 205.688. And Scott Brayton at 205.647. In row number 6 at the moment is Jeff Brabham at 205.503. And Gary Bettenhausen at 204.504. The engine that McPherson and Brabham are running, Dick, is a Honda engine. Another challenge to the Cosworth domination.
Yes, actually, the Hondas, the Buicks, and the Ilmore Chevys have made a very giant step forward into entering the field of which Cosworth has owned for a number of years. I remember in 1970 when I came here, Al Unser Sr. had been running the Cosworths a little bit prematurely to most people, broke, and then finally won, and then everybody kind of jumped onto the Cosworths, and it's been Cosworth that ate up the four-cylinder offies and then has had a domination until now.
Boy, you got to really salute this guy, Poncho Carter, who's getting the gloves on and getting set to go out on his qualification attempt. He has had a very interesting month, to say the least. Dick, here is his accident from last Sunday.
And coming back around, and he does a magnificent job of saving that car, and then all of a sudden air got underneath it and lifted it up into the air, as you saw, like an airplane. Unfortunately, Poncho is one lucky fellow. The good Lord was on his side, because that's unusual to wipe off a roll bar and not get hurt, and it's a real blessing that he had a good helmet on.
It really was. The helmet had 3 holes rubbed in it, almost to the styrofoam, but Poncho Carter was okay from that accident, and here he goes. He is moving on to the speedway, and here it is. There are the 3 holes that were rubbed in that helmet as he slid from the middle of the north short chute all the way to turn number 4 on his head. And there is Poncho Carter now, and he is going on to the racetrack for a qualification attempt. He will possibly become our 18th qualifier for this year's 500-mile race. He has competed in 13 Indianapolis 500s to date. And Poncho Carter lives in Brownsburg, Indiana, of course, a second-generation driver.
One of the things I was just noticing here, Bob, Jeff McPherson did a magnificent job of consistent laps. I was thinking that Ludwig not only had the fast time for the rookies, but the most consistent. But I think Jeff McPherson just took that away with his average speeds at 205, 205, 205, and a 205.
What does that mean? Does that mean that you're flat on the accelerator all the way around the racetrack?
That means that the driver and the car are kind of communicating together, and he is satisfied with exactly what he's doing. He's either driving it at the ultimate edge, and that's all he feels he can get out of it, or else the tires are heating up and the car is slightly going away from him if it's not consistent.
You know, Dick, I think one of the most interesting stories of what's happened here this week, it seemed like that yesterday a lot of these drivers who were turning 205, 206, 207 were a little hesitant to take it, thinking that a lot of drivers will have now a complete week of practice to work up to the speeds, and they weren't real sure that those 205s, 206s, and 207s would make the race, but I think they will, don't you?
Yes, I do, without a question. I'm sure Michael Andretti, who waved off after going 209, 207, and then all of a sudden waved off, would just give his IT to not be sitting with a 205, but I don't think he's in any problem. Plus the fact Bobby has a backup car there, and he should be all right.
All right, we'll see if Poncho takes the green flag. Yes, he does. He's on his qualification run. What do you think it will take to make the field? Will it take a speed of 209 as it did last year, or will we see possibly something a little bit less than that?
Definitely less. In fact, I think this year, with all of the changes and things that have happened, the radio tires, the changes in the cars and whatnot, that you'll see probably 205 at the very, very worst make the field.
what are you going to do now this next week? Do you relax a little bit, or do you go out on the speedway and run race day setups to get ready for the big 500?
Well, fortunately, both our cars are qualified, and for the first time in the Big Simon Racing team, we're going to have an opportunity to do a week of full load testing and that type of thing, and it has to be an advantage for us, particularly since we were here running all week very competitively, and Ludwig is a tremendous driver. Give him a little more time, and I do believe he's going to be extremely competitive, and of course myself, it's the best I've ever run here.
And there is Poncho Carter's first lap. It's 2:03.597 on the borderline. Comes very close to the wall coming out of turn number 2. Now, Dick, we've talked about the radial tires before, but this is the very first time they have ever run them at Indianapolis. Can you tell a difference?
Only in the fact that the car, if you don't change the cambers, in other words, the radial tire is much better than the bias tire, meaning non-radial. The bias tire last year, we had a problem, and the years before, as they heated up, they would expand, and the radial tire doesn't expand. I think it's a tremendous advantage, but the teams and the technology that goes with it has to be learned by each of us, and some of us have got a handle on it, and some of us haven't. And you'll notice Poncho Carter here is coming very close to the wall. Poncho is very fast at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and most of the tracks, and he comes right up next to the wall, lets the car go free. Now, in comparison to Jeff's, he's letting it see how he comes up and then doesn't jerk it off the wall too fast, but lets it come down away from the turbulence and goes from there.
So he has 2 laps in excess of 203.5 miles an hour, and he's at the north end of the racetrack on lap number 3. Poncho Carter from Brownsburg, Indiana. First drove in a championship race 1974, and he's been around for many, many years. Again, this will be his 14th Indianapolis 500-mile race. The white flag goes out, and one more lap to go. One more tour of the 2.5 miles for Poncho Carter.
This is a case, Bob, where Poncho is letting off the gas very smoothly, trying to get the utmost out of the car. But did you see that little twitch there? He just touched the wall. The back end got loose. That's part of the reason he's running so slower. He's keeping it very smooth, but his speed is not able to come up because he could not stay into the throttle.
He's about a mile an hour faster on lap number 3, up to 204.536. His 3-lap average is 203.8 now, and we'll see if the crew allows him to...
He shouldn't take it, Bob.
He should not?
No, not at this point.
All right, let's see if he does not. You'll see the crew on the right side of your screen display the yellow flag. If they don't want him to take it, they're going to let him accept it. The checkered flag goes out, and the 17th qualifier of the weekend has completed his run. That is Poncho Carter with an average of 203.781 miles an hour, and we'll be right back.
Before any race.
Trials have been brought to you by Sure. You can raise your hand if you're